like, I'm going to get myself takeout and come home and just curl up on the couch.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Get a nap in before the boys go home. Take your drugs. Yes. I think that's a plan.
Yeah, I didn't listen to you Monday, but I am today.
Okay, good. You need to. Definitely. So, all right. I'm kind of relying on the fact I've done this a few times that because I haven't been through it as often as I feel like maybe I should have.
You always do great.
It was funny when I was talking to Elaine. It's like, what's your number one thing? She goes, I have to get a budget in place.
Did she sign up for today's call?
She didn't say she did. So, I mean, I gave them the manual workbook, as part of my successful pet business. So I might end up sending her the Excel templates. I don't know. We'll see how she does.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I saw the campaign. There's 39 registered for today. And I think the last numbers was like 53 who had opted out of this series because we tried the new opt-in.
Oh,
So they're not opting out of, by doing that, they didn't get to opt out of everything from you. They're just opting out of the Budgets Made Easy stuff. So we'll have to remember next time we launch to include that tag or exclude that tag. Anybody with that tag that requested.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. I'd rather have them opt out of the campaign than the whole list. So that's good. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, it's so also the other thing is Infusionsoft had a beta builder, email builder, where I do the newsletters, and that's one that's responsive. I don't know if you recall, we had somebody say, every time I look at it on my phone, it's all messed up.
Yeah.
And their beta was responsive. And I had spent all that time trying to make the footer look really nice, and then realized, depending on if you're looking at your phone or the size, if you zoom in on your screen, it gets disaligned. Well, now they've made the beta the main one. So I need to go in and play and create templates. But what's going to happen is all of our old email series, I don't know if you can replace those. And that's a lot of emails. But I've seen in some places it'll say convert to new builder. So I'll have to experiment with that.
Right.
And hopefully we can get our footer and all that to look the same as, that was it Elizabeth, Beth, or Courtney that set that up for us?
Yeah. Beth, I think. Yeah. That would be good.
On that, low priority list.
Yeah. All right. You ready to present?
I am.
All right. It says we're presenting to everyone. So do you see people joining our room?
I don't. It still says off air. Are you sure we're live?
Oh, maybe I have to hit the start broadcast button. Starting. Now it says live. Are we there now?
Yeah, we're broadcasting now.
All right, welcome everybody. We're excited to have you join us for our Budgets Made Easy webinar presentation. This is Susan, and I also have with me Jamie, who's going to be helping and answering your questions today. If you have anything during the actual session, I'll let Jamie kind of tell you the admin side of our program.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, Catherine and Becky. I see some other folks are joining us. So during the presentation, you should see a chat bar on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you guys have any questions during the presentation, feel free to type those in, and we'll either address them as Susan's presenting or save some until the end.
So where's everybody joining us from today? We love to have people from all across the US plus other countries. So if you just want to try out that chat box Jamie talked about, go ahead and let us know where you're joining us from. I'm in Texas.
I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah, so.
Welcome, Julie, Casey, Troy, Melise. Glad to have you guys. Welcome, Cato.
Oh, Julie from Topeka. Thrilled to have you, Julie. Idaho. See, we got the Midwest. Oh, another Houstonian. Yay.
Got Washington.
See, I love it when we go coast to coast.
We certainly have.
So we'll be getting started in about 3 minutes. So we're happy to have you guys on. We got another Atlanta. See, Jamie, we're putting out the good vibes.
So what's the weather like, everyone? Here in Atlanta, it's not very much fall. Looks are deceiving. It looks fall when I look out my window and see lots of leaves dropping, but it's been in the high 70s, low 80s.
And Jamie likes jacket weather.
Yes, I do.
It's not jacket weather in Houston either, so.
Washington, y'all should be cold.
So, all right, a couple of minutes, we'll be getting underway. We go by the official Apple time, so appreciate your patience as we get going. We'll have pretty much a close to an hour total time. I'll finish early, so like Jamie said, if you have questions, we can get to them at the end. But if you have any technical questions or anything where you can't hear or see something, go ahead and put that in the chat box, and Jamie will troubleshoot that while I go ahead and go through the webinar content. So we'll be getting underway shortly. Go ahead.
I was just welcoming Barbie and Danny.
I love it that people are excited to be here to talk about budgets. It just makes me so excited because I sometimes feel like the financial stuff is, as I say, it's not the sexy part, but it's really important to the business. So it's great you guys are excited. I'm super excited that you're here.
Yes.
All right, so we're good to go, Jamie. I have that it's start time, so we don't want to keep anybody waiting. So welcome to our Budgets Made Easy webinar presentation. And one of the reasons I get so excited about budgets is I really feel strongly that it's the #1 financial management tool that really serves as your GPS or roadmap for your business. And it allows you to be proactive versus reactive in your management. And it's just like a map. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But once you lay out your destination and your GPS, you know where you want to be, and the budget then serves as that tool. So first, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you're in the right place, that you last year had a good year, but really couldn't predict how much your own salary was going to be. And if that's you, then I'm glad you're here, because we're going to talk about how a budget can help you with that. Maybe your revenues were up, but your profits stayed the same or decreased. And that's a common thing I hear in talking to clients and different people at industry events. And if so, it's another reason that I'm excited about budgets, that you would know that in advance, and I'm glad you're here. And lastly, maybe you're trying to make some important business decisions, whether to grow or expand or add staff, and you feel like you're just making them on the fly based on your gut versus real data. And again, I'm glad you're here, because I think a budget will help you in this area as well. So for those of you that I've don't know me or haven't met me, my name is Susan Briggs, and for Crystal Canine, our tagline is keeping pet care the best career in the world. We love helping business owners in the pet care space really love their business. And one of my missions is that when we start thinking fall, we not only think jacket weather, but we also think it's budget season. It's time to really start thinking about my budget for next year. And so my background, my educational training is in accounting and finance, but I've also spent over 12 years owning and managing a pet business operation. So I'm taking all that expertise and sharing it with you today in our Budgets Made Easy webinar. And it's exciting when you go out on the web and you find other people that are agree with you on the importance of budgeting. That I love what Mindy Cray said, budgets are what separate the financially successful from the financially mediocre. So I hope all of you are with me in seeking success in our businesses versus mediocrity. And if you stick with me to the end, there is a special bonus that I'm going to be excited to share with you. So please just hang in there. We're going to get there in less than an hour, and then we'll reward you with a special opportunity. And so question may be, why should fall be the budget season? And the number one reason is budgets really do eliminate any ambiguity that you have about how is my business going to do next year. And not only does it provide that clarity for your business, it also provides it for your personal life. Because when you're a small business owner, your paycheck is tied to how your business does. And when we don't know, there's a discomfort with that when you can't plan. And so I'm excited about the budget being your roadmap or GPS, not only for your business, but also for you personally in planning and setting your goals. And I know that not all of you have the financial accounting background that I do. So a real goal of mine was to create a simple process that business owners can use year after year. And some of you, if you're doing a budget, probably are doing some of these steps, but we're going to go through in this webinar the 6 steps of my process that's going to result in a realistic month-by-month operating budget. So we're going to start. The first step is in preparing, and we set that up into 3 Ds. So we're going to prepare documents, data, and some decisions, and that's going to be the first step in your budget process. Then we're going to learn some time-saving tips on how you can estimate your next year's revenue and get some realistic goals based on your history. We're definitely all about shortcuts in our process. So the majority of our time, we're going to look at what I consider the big 3 expenses that we have in our businesses. It's your payroll, facility cost, and marketing. And so those will be our focus when we get to the expense side. And then I think a key thing that may not happen is that we're going to kind of take a pause and you're going to review your first draft and ask some key questions. And we're going to go through those a little bit later in the webinar before you actually finalize your budget. And then I think the bonus tool that you get from the process that I'm sharing with you today is a cash flow planning tool, because knowing how much cash you have available and when you're going to have it in your business is a big stress reliever as well as confidence builder for your business. And then the last thing is that I'm going to help you keep your budget a valuable tool all year long. So we're going to share some tips on your budget's great for planning, but I see it as a tool that you can use all year. And that's really why I think the budget is a game changer. And it's kind of a lesson I learned the hard way when I operated my pet business, Urban Tales, because there wasn't ever enough time in the day, week, or month to get everything done. And for several years, I have to admit that I let that prevent me from creating and operating with a budget. But it was when I grew tired of reacting to business changes and got tired of the ambiguity of how much money I was going to make personally that I stopped and realized that it was really kind of silly, especially for me, to not have a budget. Because as I told you earlier, my educational background is in accounting. I actually have a master's in accounting, and this is me in many younger days when I was graduating with some of my fellow accountant students. So I knew what to do. I knew how to put a budget together, but I let those daily fires and demands pull me away from my financial responsibilities in my business. So in 2007, I prioritized creating a budget for my business. And after I did it, I was really kind of embarrassed by how little time it did take and what a difference it made. The positive financial results were just really important to my business. Our profits grew by 3% every year, and it just became a big financial stress reliever operating with a budget. I had a big mental relief and felt like I was finally being proactive in managing my business finances. So your business is not the only beneficiary. You can't plan personally when you don't know how much you're going to get paid. So this number one management tool is going to allow you to be proactive, make adjustments to your plans. You'll be able to compare monthly your actual to your plan and then make changes. And then that allows you to do personal planning and strategic long-term business planning. So I was excited that my background in education in accounting combined with my operational experience in pet care was going to allow me to help my fellow business owners. So I've pulled all this together, and I'm excited to share that you're here today. So I know some of you may be thinking that this sounds good for you, Susan, but I don't have that educational background, and I may actually even dislike numbers and kind of force myself to come to this webinar. Well, I want you to know that's okay. We're going to take this step by step, kind of like painting an elephant. I'm going to tell you where to start. The first time it seems overwhelming, but with the guide and the step-by-step process, it's going to be easy. We're just going to take it one step at a time, and you really have a lot of time between now and January to get your budget in place. So I know everyone can do this, and I'm excited that you've going to let me help you on this journey. So before we go any further, I do want to stop and just have you focus on your own mindset. I want you to feel confident, stay positive. And one thing I really recommend when you embark on your budget process is to work on it in an environment that you really like. So that may mean you need to leave your pet center. In fact, I would recommend that you don't try to do your budget while you're at your business, because I remember how many interruptions happen on a day-to-day basis when you're working in your office in your pet business. So plan to do your budget sessions either at the local coffee shop and reward yourself with your favorite beverage, or do it in your home office, and also consider dividing it into multiple sessions. So don't think that you've got to sit down and do all these steps that I'm talking about at one time. In fact, I really recommend you don't. So think about right now, if you have the workbook, how are you going to reward yourself for each one of the budget sessions that you sit through? Be sure and complete that part of the workbook, because it's a really important to reward yourself for doing something that may not be the most fun thing that you want to do in your business. So we're going to go through now the 6 steps to creating your budget that we kind of alluded to earlier. So let's just dive into them. The first one is preparing your documents. So I want you to pull history on your business, and this is something that you can get help with. You don't have to do everything in the budget process. So I'm going to highlight the steps that only you can do. But if you have a bookkeeper or a key manager or supervisor in your business that helps you, ask them to help you with this document part. So the documents that I want you to pull would be your monthly profit and loss statements. And if you use QuickBooks, you can get a report from that. And you're going to need them for the last 12 months. So we're not going to be totally completed with 2016. So what you may need to do is start by pulling November of 2015 and December of 2015, and then pull your monthly reports for January through October of 2016. I do want you to have the past 12 months so that you can see the different cycles. You guys know if you do lodging that November is a big month for boarding, so we don't want to ignore that revenue. So have them pull the last 12 months of your business. And then I also want to make sure that your revenue has that detailed breakdown by service. So, how much was your lodging versus daycare, bathing, grooming, pet sitting. If you do dog training, you want to know your revenue by service. If you're training, you may want to know classes versus privates. If you don't have that information in your P&L reports, then you will need to have somebody pull that from your point of sale system. And again, you want to pull that month by month. So those are the documents that you want to start with. The next step is still in the 3Ds. We're going to be pulling some data. So again, think who could help you pull together data from this same time period, probably November 2016 or 2015 through October 2016. And the data I want you to pull together would be the number of units that you service by month. So that would be, how many dog nights, how many dog daycare day visits, how many cat boarding nights. Also having your occupancy rates by month by service is very helpful. And then having the effective average rate earned for each service is an important data element when you're trying to plan your revenue for next year. And the reason that number is important is because for most of us, we have our, what I call our published rates, but then we also offer packages or we offer discounts for multiple pets. So we need to know exactly how much are we actually earning. And if you don't know this number, you can calculate it by taking your total revenue for a month, and that would be actual revenue you earned. So if you sold prepaid packages in advance and they didn't use them all, you would need to deduct out any revenue that related to packages that hadn't been used yet. But get the revenue you earned that month, divide by the units you serviced. And that tells you the effective rate you're collecting for the services you offer. Then other data that you need to have available for doing your budget or any changes that are going to happen in your business expenses. So if you pay rent, look at your lease. Are you going to have an increase next year? And what month will that take effect? And how much will your new rent be? If you have an adjustable note where the interest rate may change, forecasting what that impact will be is going to be important. So we just want to kind of collect that data. If you know your property taxes are going to go up, collecting that data would be part of this process. And again, let people help you with this D in your budget planning process. Because the third D, the decisions really is a step that only you as the business owner can do. And that's why I like you to delegate out part of the first two Ds, is so that you can really spend your time making some quality decisions about your business. And it's really kind of a strategic planning session. Step back and think about, what are your future plans? Do you want to offer any new services in 2017? Are you going to increase any rates? What do you want to do with your staffing levels? Do you have minimum wage increases that are going to impact your business, an interim step? I know there's many places in the country that's dealing with that. Or do you just feel like your team is doing a great job and you want to be able to give some increases? Are there any vendors that you could go out to bid for services? Maybe your internet service or phone service. Could you get a competitive bid and save some money? And then the last thing is really reflecting on unusual events. Did anything unusual happen in your business? And this, I would look back at history. Did anything unusual happen this year that either impacted my revenue or expenses in either a positive or negative way? Or is there anything unusual that I think may happen next year? Maybe you have a big event coming to your community where you think people may be going to use your services so you can boost your daycare or revenue based on that. So these are the things that as a business owner, I would want you to make notes about and to document. So you've finished step one, which are the 3Ds of preparing. So now you've got this, the reports, the data, and the decisions. So you're ready to start planning your revenue. And we're going to talk about some shortcuts that's going to make this easier. And the first thing is to focus again your time that you spend on the budget where it's going to give you the most bang for your buck. So I want you to think about all the services you offer and identify those that you would say are your key services. These may be the ones that make up like 20% or more of your revenue, or maybe combine these 2 or 3 or 80% of your revenue. So I want you to, we're going to spend our time and doing most of our work on those 2 or 3 services, and then we'll use some shortcuts to plan everything else. So once you've identified your key services, again, think about this year, did you have any anomalies? One year we had a hurricane come through, and that made our lodging for the month of September be much lower than it normally would be. So I wanted to identify that so that for next year I would bump that back up. We talked a little bit about thinking, are there any future market conditions that's going to impact your business? Maybe there's new housing being built around your business that's going to get finished. That could be an influx of volume for next year. And you're going to then, project how much do you think you can grow, and showing positive growth in your business every year is definitely important for your exit strategy. So think about how can you do that, and what percentage growth do you think you're going to have, and then budget by month. Look at what you did last year and think about how you can increase it for the next year. So here's a sample of what this could look like in a way you may actually calculate the number of daycare dogs that you would have coming into your business. So I'm going to kind of step you through this. I only put 3 months up on the screen so that you could actually see it, but this would be the process you would do for every month. So let's look at our daycare capacity. In January and February, it's 35 dogs, but you can see in March, we increased it to 50. So we may be opening up more space for daycare in March, or we may be adding another person who can watch another 15 dogs and just adding another group. Think about if there's ways you can expand your capacity and build that into your plan. And then we document our occupancy rate for each month, and we would probably be basing that off our historical data that we collected. And we just calculate then how many dogs per day will we have, which is our capacity by our occupancy rate. And then we look at how many days are we offering daycare. In this example, we're just offering it on weekdays, not on weekends. And so we look at the calendar and see how many weekdays do we have each month. And then you can see at the bottom, we've got a calculation that in January, we would have 514 dogs. We can't have a half, so you're either going to have to decide to round up or down. I mean, I guess you could have a half with a half a day, but we're not going to get that complicated. We're kind of keeping it simple here. And you can see that just expanding our capacity in March by 15 dogs can really boost the number of dogs coming in. So the next step, we've taken from the previous screen our number of daycare dogs, and now we're going to multiply it by the average rate that I talked about calculating earlier. So you can see in January our average rate is 20, but it increases in February and March to 23. So we're making a change here. We're either reducing a discount or we're increasing our rates, which is a good thing. I really think as business owners, we need to increase some of our rates every year. But I want you to look at the difference that makes in your daycare revenue plan when you do that. In January, we budgeted $10,300 at 525 dogs, but with a rate increase in February of $3, we make more revenue by servicing less dogs. And this is really the value you get from budgeting, is you can see in advance the impact of these types of decisions. And then you can see in March, if we really increase our capacity and can fill that space at $23, we almost double our revenue for daycare. So this example may be a little extreme, but I wanted to give you a taste of what can happen when you start planning in advance and the impact it really has on your business opportunities. This would motivate me to really make sure I was doing my marketing to fill that space and expand my capacity and increase my rates so that I was able to make more revenue. So we talked about going through and doing that detailed plan for your key services. Probably you've got other services that you do offer in your business. And so the way we're going to budget those revenues is do an estimate, and we might do it as a percentage increase over the prior year. So maybe you had bath revenue for your boarding dogs and you just want to increase that 5% over the prior year. That would be a percentage increase, and just take what your baths were last year and every month just increase it by 5%. Other services, it may make sense just to put in a flat monthly rate. We would do dog parties where people would lease out our pool and space in the back for parties. And that revenue was kind of hard to predict. So I would just put that in at a flat monthly rate, like $100 or $200 a month, and it would just kind of even out over the year. And it took me, a minute to do, and didn't have a significant impact either way, but I did want to have some revenue there. The other way to consider budgeting and planning revenue would be to take a percentage of a related service. So an example I gave you earlier about baths, if a lot of your baths are really tied to your boarding revenue, you can determine what that percentage is this year and then apply that same percentage to next year, because you may plan for your boarding revenue to go up. So maybe you know that baths runs 2% of your boarding revenue. And so I would take once I've planned my boarding revenue for next year, then just plan baths at 2% or whatever that is for you. So hopefully those tips kind of help you see how you can quickly budget your non-key services, and it won't take you very long at all. So now we're going to move on to expenses. This is step 3. And we talked about we're just going to focus on the big 3 expenses. Again, I want you to spend your time being specific in the areas where it's going to make the most impact. So we're going to start kind of the same way we did with our revenue. Start by thinking about, was there anything unusual this year that won't reoccur next year? Are there going to be market conditions next year that will impact these expenses? What impact will any new services you're going to offer have on probably your payroll, maybe even your marketing? You may increase your marketing because you're adding new services. And again, we're going to budget these month by month. So we'll start with our payroll. And one tip I have for you is to really think about when you're going to do staff increases. And when I started doing my budget, I decided that I would do increases twice a year for my staff. So we would increase their wages in, say, April and October. And that way it made it easier for me to budget and plan. And it also created a budget that I knew I wanted to stay within, so that I could meet my overall budget profitability numbers. So plan now what is going to be your wage increase for the next year. Also decide if you're going to have any additional benefits. And then, like we talked about, if you're adding new services, are you going to need new staff? If you're going to grow, are you going to have to add staff? Are you going to maybe add a supervisor or manager position? And then we need to stop and think, is there a way we can gain efficiencies and be more productive? Because payroll is a large percentage of our budget. Because we're in the service business, we always want to see how we can gain efficiencies and be more productive. One number you may want to know and watch for your business is your payroll percentage as compared to revenue. And in our industry, 40% is great. If your payroll cost or 40% of your revenue, I think for many businesses, especially if you offer daycare, it's closer to 50%. And I know it's not unusual for people to be in the 60% range. But I can tell you, for exit strategy and selling your business, the closer you can get to 40%, the easier it is to sell. So that is just kind of some tips that may help you look at that number and see how you can maybe get it to be a little lower. So this is a chart. Again, I wanted to show you how this might look if you were setting this up in Excel. And in creating my payroll plan, I would kind of divide out my different type of pay. So I would be looking at the staff that I pay hourly wages and plan that month by month versus commissions. And I paid my groomers and my trainers on commissions. And the reason I wanted these split out differently is because I would calculate them differently. And then I would come up and actually put my management salaries in as a separate line, because I was be paying my management salaries regardless of volume, but my hourly wages and commission people, their pay may vary based on the volume of revenue. And so I want to be able to adjust that. And then I would come up with a total staff payroll number. And a key thing I want you to plan as a part of your budget is your own owner-based pay. And I want you to plan this amount as the pay that you need to pay yourself to keep your household expenses in check and to you to be happy paying yourself a salary for owning your business. Even if you don't know that you can afford it, I want you to put it into your budget plan. And then I like to plan on top of that a quarterly bonus that you would pay yourself. And I think that tying that quarterly bonus to meeting or exceeding your budget numbers is a great way to motivate you to keep this budget being a helpful tool for you. So this would be kind of the big picture look of what your total payroll would look like. Getting to that hourly wage number, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. If you think your staff numbers are going to be pretty steady as to what they were last year, you could just look at last year's number. And if you want to increase wages by 4%, you could just take your salaries from last year, multiply times 1.04%, and that would give you your hourly wages. If you think you're going to have a lot of changes, then you may need to list the additional staff that you're going to add on top of last year, and then calculate what that additional pay would be for your new positions and add them up. So hopefully, yes.
We have a question from Troy about, does the revenue to payroll calculation include taxes?
Okay, that's a great question, Troy. And generally it does, yes. Generally it does include payroll taxes, but it would not include really your owner pay, usually. Unless you are like in a revenue producing position like a groomer or a trainer, usually it doesn't include that. But that's a great question, and I appreciate you clarifying that while we're still here talking about it. So in my hourly wages and commission and management salaries, that would be wages plus taxes. And you can, if those are separate numbers in your budget or your actuals for this year, you can just take the amount you paid in taxes divided by total payroll and get a percentage so that you kind of know what that is on a percentage basis. When I looked at it for my business, it was about $1 an hour. So if my average wage was $9 an hour, I would consider $10 an hour the amount I had to pay to also cover their taxes. Again, looking for those little shortcuts makes doing your budget a lot easier and quicker, and I'm all about shortcuts. All right, so our next, the second of the big three is our facility costs. And if you're a pet sitter or a trainer that working out of the home, instead of having a facility, this may be your auto expenses because you travel to your clients. And as a facility, you're either going to have rent or you may be paying a mortgage. And if you're paying a mortgage, the only the interest portion of your mortgage payment is in your P&L. The principal payment is part of your balance sheet, or we'll be including that in cash flow. And that's why I like having cash flow planning as a separate part of your budget. It's really helpful if you actually own your own building and are paying a mortgage. You know, property taxes, if you're responsible for paying that. When the economy gets good, most municipalities increase property taxes. So getting the feel of what that impact is important for planning. And then, you know, what insurance, repairs, maintenance do you need to do? Think about that in advance. And this is where I would go ahead and put my full wish list together. Again, it's your budget. This is the time to determine if you can afford it. So put that wish list out there of all the improvements you want to do. We can always cut them if we decide we can't afford them. Again, it's giving you data and information to make decisions. And then also your utility cost. think about those. And utilities are a great one to go out and try to get vendor bids on if there's a way that you can save money, because anything you can save related to facility and auto is great because it doesn't tie directly to providing quality of care. So this is where I really like to look for savings. For your marketing, go ahead and do your marketing plan. How are you getting the word out? And kind of schedule that out. You probably know what months you do big events, do big marketing splashes to try to get more business in. So kind of schedule that out. Think about your print, your SEO, your online, any social media ads that you run. And then also think about other promotions. When do you do product or service giveaways, your referral awards, promotions, and just schedule out for the year what your plans are and then what your costs are going to be related to advertising and marketing. And how much you spend on this will vary. If you're a new business, you may be spending up to 10% of your revenue on marketing. If you're a mature business that has a wait list, you may be spending 1 or 2% of your revenue on marketing and advertising. It really depends where you're at. If you're wanting to grow or if you're introducing a new service or something new, you may be increasing your marketing and advertising versus if you're brand new. So this is very personal to your business, but go ahead and plan it out and make it a part of your budget plan now. So we have other expenses that we haven't talked about. These you also do want to plan by month, and like merchant fees, I would do that very similar to the way we talked about doing payroll taxes. I would determine what is your percentage that merchant fees run today of your revenue this year. And then once you've got your new revenue numbers, it may be like 3%. So then next year I would just say my merchant fees are 3% of my total revenue every month. And you can plug that in real quickly. Seminars and training. You may know what months you go to industry seminars or that it's slower. And so you're investing in enrolling staff in training courses. So I would then plan them by the month you're actually going to spend the money. That's going to make it much more reliable when you're comparing actual to your budget. Same thing with dues and subscriptions. Whatever month they're due and you're going to pay them, just replicate that. And same thing for your taxes. Then we may have some expenses that I would plan by just looking at how much I spent last year and either putting in the same amount, or if I think they're going to go up, put an estimate in that I'm going to increase it by a specific percentage. And this could be, you know, your cleaning or general supplies, maybe your insurance, interest, professional fees. I wouldn't spend a lot of time. Again, I would look at what those expenses were last year and just put them in at the same amount or a little bit more if you think that the rates may go up. So now you've got a rough draft of your revenue and expenses. And so this is the part that I really want you to write down, and the key questions that are going to be on the next slide, because this is where the value of the budget comes into place. We've gone 3 steps and now we have a rough draft of what our profit's going to look like. So this is when you need to pause and ask yourself these questions. Does the bottom line meet your expectations? Does your salary make you happy? Do you have money left over so that you can pay the debt payments or principal part of your mortgage? Do you have money for the capital improvements you want to do, that wish list of projects? And if you answered no, you just try again. This is why I absolutely love budgets. Now you know on paper you're not happy with results. And so you know you're going to make some changes. And we just try again. So let's look at the budget that we kind of put together. We've, in this example, I added a total column so you could see kind of what a total result would look like. We've got our total revenue for the year, our payroll, our rent, marketing. I don't have all the detail expenses there. Again, I wanted you to be able to see it, but you can see we've planned a net loss for January, February, and March, and at the end of the year, we're going to have a loss of $2,000. So how many of you would want, if this was your budget, would want to make an adjustment? I think most of us would, unless this was like your second year in business and then a $2,000 loss may be okay. But if you were that close to break even or profit, I would say, let's go back and see what we could do. How could we make some adjustments? And really the adjustments you can make are kind of simple. You either increase your revenue or you decrease expenses. But what I love about the budget is it's kind of like playing with Monopoly money, that you get to play the game with fake money before it's reality, so that you can get your plans in place and really know, what can I do now so that I don't lose $2,000? If I didn't go through this exercise and just did those plans, I might have been disappointed at the end of next year that I'd lost $2,000. Now I have the opportunity to change my plans. And this is a quote from one of my clients, Mary Beth. When I worked with her on a budget, she had the opportunity to get into some new space and expand her and grow her business. And so I worked with her. We did some conservative estimates of adding staff. We did reduce her discount levels because she was pretty generous there. And our first draft had an annual loss of $14,000 or 3%. So your first instinct might be, no, Mary Beth, you shouldn't expand into this new space. But she was really kind of excited. And so we talked about, well, what could we change in our plan that would make this a good, profitable decision for your business? So we went back and she increased her daycare rate by 50 cents and her sleepover by $2. And those two changes took her from a $14,000 loss to $11,000 profit. But now Mary Beth saw the power of doing a budget in advance. So she wasn't done. We went back and looked at more things in her budget. And when we finalized it, she had planned for a $22,000 income or profit, or 5% in her final plan. She increased her daycare rate another 50 cents and decided she was going to expand bath services. So again, having these numbers in place gave her confidence, and now she knows operationally what she needs to do to implement and achieve those goals. And she did go through with her expansion plans. Now, I told you that one thing I was excited about this budget process is step 5, that you get a cash flow plan. And I know it can be frustrating. I had this frustration that my profit and loss statement would show a profit, but I would still struggle to have the money in the bank to where I could actually pay myself. And once you've actually gone through and created your budget, I'm going to show you how easy it is to then create a cash flow plan from that. And what you have to think about is, what are the cash expenditures that aren't in your profit and loss statement? And we talked about a couple of those. That would be any loan principal payments or the principal part of your mortgage payment. If you have credit card balances that aren't paid in full, extra payments on those would not be in your P&L. And then if you're purchasing new equipment or doing big facility improvements that go on your balance sheet, those are not going to be in your profit and loss. So those are the cash flow items that you would need to plan for. And so what this looks like, once you've done your budget, we can take the amount of cash we start the year with. So we're saying that's $12,350. Then we're taking that net loss from January is going to reduce that because we're going to have to pay for that. And then we're going to have to make our loan principal payment. So now we know that at the end of January, we're going to have $7,600 to start February. We know our loss for the month and then our loan principal payment. So at the end of February, we're in a pretty tight cash flow position, $1,350. But in March, we know we're going to make some money. And so that's why we delayed our asset purchase of $2,500 to March. We knew we wouldn't be able to afford it in February. So again, this is the beauty of doing a budget, so that you can plan your purchases and know the timing when it makes the most sense for your business. You can see that we did go back and change our budget so that we came up with a net income of $23,000 for the year. And so that now we're going to end the year with cash projections of $14,000. So hopefully you can see the value of taking your budget another step and doing a cash flow plan with it at the end. So now the last step is I want you to really maximize the value of investing time doing a budget and do it all year. It's, creating your budget is an annual exercise, but your budget should be a tool that you use all year long. And what I want you to do is once you have your budget in place, use it every month to be your financial roadmap. I want you to compare your actual results to your budget every month and look to see your results. Now you're going to know if you're not on target exactly where you're off and what steps you may need to take. I'm also a person that believes that, once you get into the reality of your operations, things change. So every quarter I would look at my budget, and if you know something, one of your assumptions was off, then at the end of the first quarter, I'd make changes to my budget so it stays a valuable tool all year long. You may make changes to your marketing plan or how you operate. So go ahead and change your budget to reflect that every quarter. And definitely get help. If you use a bookkeeper or accountant, tell them you sat through this webinar, you're excited to create a budget, and you want their help. I think the value of the tool is worth paying a little bit to get help if you're not comfortable doing it yourself. Because what you do today can improve all your tomorrows. And this is a quote by Ralph Marston, and I think this really reflects and summarizes the value of the budget. Hopefully you feel like the time you invest in creating a budget can improve all of your tomorrows by being that roadmap or GPS to your financial success. So again, just reflecting on, why did you attend today? Are you looking to make more money? You want to get clarity about your finances? Do you want to feel confident in your business decisions? I think a budget will help you to do all of these things. And you may be saying, yeah, I'd love to have a budget, but I'm just not sure how I'm going to find the time. The holidays are coming, and I'm afraid it's going to take me too long to actually put all this in action. And, how long does it take to create your budget really does depend, because you've got two options. You can do it yourself following the steps that I gave you in this webinar today, or you can actually take some shortcuts, because I've actually taken the steps that we went through and created a workbook that will make it easy. And in addition to the workbook, every year, because I want the fall to be budget season, I've actually created a toolkit, which is I'm really excited to offer just seasonally to help you get your 2017 budget in place. So I am a firm believer that you're going to make confident decisions and more money when you operate with a budget and have this review system in place. So this complete budget toolkit is focused on helping you get a budget in place in 30 days. So you get a preparation and implementation checklist that gives you 3 options to getting a budget done in 30 days. You get a budget workbook and done for you Excel templates, and also recorded video lessons where I'm actually completing the Excel templates so you can follow along and see how it's done. I also have a private Facebook group that's all about budgeting, so you can get support there and ask questions and get answers to your questions on actually getting the budget done for your business. And then we also have an accountability program, because I know oftentimes we start things and we have great intentions, but we don't get it into practice. So we want to support you through email and just reminding you that during these 30 days, your priority is to work on your budget, and we're here to support and help you do that. So in only 30 days, you can create your 2017 budget with expert guidance and support. So our Budgets Made Easy core product is a premium workbook that includes a checklist and interview to help you make those decisions. It includes instructions and examples and 16 different worksheets that are already set up for the calculations to be done for you. And once you have this workbook, you can use it every year to create your budget. It's not something you just do for 2017. You can use it over and over again. You also get access to recorded workshop sessions where you'll see me actually completing the revenue budget, a payroll expense, doing the P&L review, and cash flow for a real live pet business. So you don't have to figure out how to fill out the templates yourself. You have these video recordings that show you a sample of how to get it done. Then, the preparation and implementation plan checklist, I think, will help you stay on track. You can plan your schedule, plan your budget sessions. We actually give you a checklist to go through those 3D steps of preparation. We give you a checklist on making your key decisions. And then we actually give you 3 30-day creation timeline options that you can just follow. One of them starts right away. One of them starts later in November. And then one of them actually starts in January, so that you can pick the time frame that's right for you. We know that Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up, so we've outlined 30-day timelines that take those holidays into consideration, that kind of helps you know the steps you need to take and when you can schedule them in your calendar. And then, you get expert help and advice, not only from me with my financial background, but also from other people that are also completing their budgets through our private Facebook group membership. And then you do get the accountability emails that help you, remind you that this is your priority for the year. And we also send emails to help you implement and use your budget as a tool in 2017. So what you'll create from the toolkit is you'll have your annual budget done in 30 days. You know that you're going to be making informed business decisions. My goal would be that you have a bigger paycheck waiting for you in 2017, and that you have confidence in your personal plans, and that you've got a roadmap to achieve the goals you want by having your business. So I told you if you hung in with me to the end, there would be a bonus for you. If you sign up for the toolkit today and during the webinar launch series, you can save $30. You just use the coupon code budget30, and that coupon code does need to be all caps for budget. But this would give you $30 off an already great seasonal offer, which is you can get the full toolkit for $229 single payment, or you can make 3 installment payments at $89. And again, if you use the budget 30 during the webinar replay time period, you can save $30 off of these prices. And the seasonal offer is going to end November 10th, and the budget 30 ends before that. So take advantage now to get help and get a budget in place. So to get more details on, or to purchase your toolkit, you just go to crystalcanine.com, and then budgets-made-easy-implementation-toolkit. So that's the URL, and we hope that you don't miss out on this great opportunity to get the toolkit. Again, it's a seasonal offer that we won't offer again until next fall. And actually, I'm so excited about budgets, and I believe so much in the value that if you're not happy, you go and show us the work that you tried to use our templates and create a budget, and you're not fully satisfied, within 30 days, we're going to refund your full purchase price, because we really believe in our products and tools, that we want you to be happy. So the total value exceeds over $700 in the toolkit, with the support and accountability and the video lessons. But again, you can get all of that for $229. Actually, less than that. With the coupon code, it would cost you less than $200. So if this feels like it's right for you and your business, you want to have confidence in your decisions and a bigger paycheck, just go to that URL that's on the screen. I think Jamie's going to put it in the chat box to make it easy to click on. You can click the Purchase Now button on that page, complete your card information. Make sure you select your payment option, whether you want a single payment or 3 payments. And then at the bottom, put in your promo code. And then what you will get is you're going to get 3 emails. You're going to get one that's a receipt. You're going to get one that's an order confirmation. And then the third email is going to give you details on how you actually access your toolkit. So we're really excited that you were here. And we do have about 10 minutes for questions. I actually will stay on, Jamie. If we've got questions, I'm happy to answer them. And again, just remember that if you're buying today, to use the coupon code budget30 and to put budget in all caps, because that coupon code sometimes is case sensitive. So Jamie, I just want to check, do we have any other questions?
We do have a question, Susan. Casey asked earlier when you were reviewing collecting information with the 3 Ds of preparing. She says she's starting a brand new business, expanding into sticks and bricks, training center, daycare, boarding, etc. From a home training and pet sitting business. So I believe her question was what would she base that information on if she's kind of starting a whole new business?
Yeah, that can be challenging, and it's a good question. But what you would do would be get pricing on if you're going to be paying rent, what is kind of the average rental cost. And what you can do is also call and find out what utilities are if you have an address. The utility companies will tell you that. You do kind of have to go into like a business planning to where you're doing some forecasting of what those costs are, but you can use, the Excel templates and everything to help you do that. It does take more homework, a lot of preparation, but it's definitely an important exercise to make sure that you're moving that business and it'll still be profitable with actually paying those expenses.
I've removed the offer link on the right-hand side, guys, so the chat box should be available to you to type in any questions that you might have. I know some of you addressed some concerns about there was an audio lag. We will be sending out a replay. I'm not sure if the replay will have the audio lag. I know on my end, everything was in sync, so we want to apologize for that. That's certainly not the standard that we wanted. So, Susan, I did have a question by email that Sue typed in and said, I'm concerned about getting the preparation work done with the busy holiday season coming up. And she wants to know, is it a realistic time to get it done?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. It's hard to believe that November starts next week, which means Thanksgiving is about 3 weeks away. And that's one of the reasons why we've given you 3 timeline options to get your budget done in 30 days. And one of them actually has you waiting and doing this in January, which may not be ideal, but my thought is it's better to get a budget done in place by the end of January than to not do one at all. So, I would look at all 3 options that's in that plan and see which one you feel comfortable with working in your schedule, and worst case scenario, just plan to really hit it in January and you'll still get it done and have it in place.
Thank you, Susan. Nancy asked or said that she doesn't use Excel very much. Do you think that she'd still be able to complete the budget in the template?
Yeah, I definitely think the templates help because we've set those up to where you can't accidentally erase things, and the calculations are done for you. And with having the recorded video lessons, you can watch how I complete it. And actually, what I would do would be have your template there and your data, and maybe even pause the video, type things in, and then go back to it. So it's kind of a step-by-step guide having those recorded video workshop lessons. Or you could also have your bookkeeper help you and give them the template. I'm all about outsourcing and getting help too.
Susan, Anna asked to clarify, if you would clarify what's in the video lessons.
Okay. Yes, what you'll do in the video lessons is we break it down according to the steps. And so in the first video lesson, you will see me use the Excel templates to complete a revenue budget for a real live pet business. So we would do those key services and then plan the other services. And then in the next session, we do our payroll budget. And then there's one in expenses. So there's 5 different ones that just go through the different steps, and you actually see me using the templates that come with the workbook so that you have confidence doing the same thing for your own business.
Susan, Chris asked, is the workbook, the budget workbook, available without him having to purchase the full toolkit?
It is. The budget workbook is a product in the Crystal Canine store. So you can just go to our website to the store and purchase that. And we'd be happy for you to do that. For just a few more dollars, you can get the other support tools. So I would really consider that, but we would love to have you buy the workbook. I just really hope we get more pet business owners putting budgets in place. And so we'd be happy for you to just use the workbook.
Does anybody else have any